What more do you want from me? I gave everything I had to you, to them. Look what they've made of our dream. This bloated, rotted carcass of an empire is driven not by reason and hope, but by fear, hate, and ignorance. Better that we had all burned in the fires of Horus' ambition than live to see this.
When my work is finished, I'm coming back for you.
Good evening, my fluffery friends. Welcome once more to the darkest pits of reality, where the things that slime and tread live between the cracks in the shadows. Yes, you have found yourself in the darkest place. Or in other words, hi everybody and welcome to the Fluffenhammer.
It never fails, ladies and gentlemen. It never fails.
Never.
Whenever he's built up that dramatic intro with the sort of grating demonic voice, and then flips back to being Adam again, it always makes me smile.
I hope it makes everybody else smile as well. It's one of the things, I'm not entirely sure how it started, but I quite like it.
I think it may have actually become a staple of the podcast now. I think it may actually be the way it has to be introduced from this point on.
Of course, make it difficult for myself, having to come up with something new and different each time.
Yeah, very, very tricky, especially considering that we are dealing with the Warhammer worlds and the Warhammer 40k universe, which is kind of restricted, isn't it, in that regard? So
it is.
I don't think, Adam, that you are fluent in any of the Eldari languages, are you? So I don't think you could go for that one.
I think I've got an idea for the next one, actually. I think something's popped into my brain. I just need to be able to stand quite far back from the microphone in order to get the screaming out.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe from hello, this is the Fluffenhammer live from a homunculi torture chamber or something like that. That could be fun.
Or welcome to the Fluffenhammer.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you today?
So, it is me, Adam Gruffy, your host, and with me is just one person. That person, of course, being my illustrious compatriot throughout these worlds that never existed. It's George.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. And as he says, yes, we're on our lonesome today. It's just us two. Our attempts to summon entities from the warp failed this time. I think we may have got something slightly wrong, to be honest, Adam. I think maybe one of the corpses was maybe butchered in the wrong way, or one of the runes was out of shape, or something like that. It all went disastrously wrong, to be honest, didn't it?
Ah, that's where we're wrong. I didn't use corpses. I used copses. I just brought a load of trees with me.
God. Well, there you go. Yeah. I mean, I cannot think in any of their many facets and aspects that any of the Chaos Powers would be interested in that.
I don't know. I think Nurgle would like a little bit of tree.
Actually, now that you mention it, yeah, Nurgle's an avid gardener. Maybe, maybe he would appreciate that. But
I think so.
Either way, nothing turned up, nothing that we could see or interact with anyway.
Well, this is a extra little show for you guys because, one, I feel really guilty about the last show that we put out. The audio quality wasn't great. Drove me up the wall, to be honest.
Deserves a medal, ladies and gentlemen. Either an Imperial medal or a mark of chaos, depending on his proclivities.
I want a medal on a tentacle.
A medal on a tentacle, there you go. So you get the best of both worlds there.
Indeed. I could be Commissar. That would be, I quite like that as an idea. But also, we're going to be doing a couple of things on this little show. We're going to be running ourselves through the new 40k, the state of the
Galaxy as it stands right now, with 8th edition now being out. We have got some listener feedback and questions.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that one. I haven't heard any of these questions yet, so I'm kind of looking forward to that.
So am I, actually. I'm really looking forward to it. And I've also got a little bit of housekeeping, which I think I will get out of the way first.
Okie dokie.
So, you people on the Facebook group, and if you are not on the Facebook group, please come and join the Facebook group. It is a lively, fun place.
Oh, it is. It's great.
A lot of stuff.
It's a really nice little corner of Facebook. It's away from all of the storm and turbulence and arguments and harassment of the rest of it. It's a nice little oasis in the warp.
It is, and that's an oasis in the warp. Don't you rock that Casbah. I love the idea of an oasis in the warp.
Yeah, just a little area of serenity and calm.
You give me an idea there. You keep doing this to me.
I know.
Give me ideas.
I can't help it.
Is there a such thing as a warp mirage?
Yeah, I should think. Well, the thing is, the warp is infinite, isn't it? The warp is all things. It's potential. It's raw potential. So anything that could potentially be is there. Yeah. It's the dream of all reality. So, yeah, why not? I mean, it's almost redundant, isn't it? It's almost redundant to ask. You can't, you know...
I suppose it is, yeah.
Because can the warp be? The answer is always yes. And not only is the answer always yes, it already is and has been and never will be and always must be. It's weird and timey-wimey and floaty-woaty and very, very strange.
So I've just realised in asking that question, I'm an idiot, because there's a book in the Deathwing anthology called Lacrimosa, and in Lacrimosa there's a part where the navigator sees the warp gate opening when he's going back from warp space to real space. He sees an actual warp gate open, and it's like a big angelic doors, and as they open, they slowly transform into something like a whale, and he flies through the mouth to get out of warp space. So I've answered my own question, and I'm an idiot. So
moving swiftly on.
So we're going to do the housekeeping first, as I say. So if you're on the Facebook group, you may have noticed this already. If you are not on the Facebook group, come and join the Facebook group, and then you can notice. We have set up our own part of the Oil House site. So instead of just being a page on the Oil House, we are now at fluffenhammer.weebly.com. We have got on there all of the shows up to date. We've got articles and stuff incoming. We've got videos from yourself.
Yeah,
Mr.
absolutely.
George.
Absolutely. First in a series, hopefully, looking at the new index books.
Yeah, and we have other videos. All of my Warhammer-based fiction's gone up on there, all the readings I've done. And I've just started a series called Mapping the Mortal Realms, which is going to be looking at the timeline and the different locations of Age of Sigmar.
Yes, I liked that one.
There is a lot more to it than you think. Shadespire is such a cool place. So that's going to be carrying on as well. So we've got all of those things up. So if you are fancying getting involved in that, we are looking at getting community involvement. So if you fancy doing some writing for us, if you fancy doing a video or something, then please join the group, give us a shout, and we'll see what we can do.
Absolutely, and the more the merrier, you know?
Oh yeah, completely. I want an entire legion, damn it. I want the Fluffenhammer 51st.
Fluffenhammer 51st, wow. That's far, far into the future. There may have been another heresy by that point. There may be like another Chaos God or gods at that point.
Yes, it was Timmy Mallet.
Yes, Malletus.
Yeah. So there's that. Also, you may have noticed, and possibly not because I haven't really mentioned it until now, we've also got our own separate feed. So our stuff is going up onto the old Oil House feed, but we're also got our own Libsyn feed. So if you are on Podcatcher or iTunes or Podcast Addict or anything like that, if you type in just the Fluffenhammer, you can get the show direct. And it's there basically. I know that a lot of people enjoy having all of the Oil House shows at the same time, which is brilliant, and I love you guys for it. But this is also for the guys who don't want to get all of those Oil House shows at the same time. So if you just want to get the Fluffenhammer shows, you can now do that.
Excellent stuff.
So that's all the housekeeping out the way. So let's get into some fun.
Yeah, let's. Should we start? Should we talk about what's going on out there?
Yeah, let's get some 40k.
Oh wow!
Fiction done.
Well, so much for the first time ever. Since I since I started the hobby, really, something has happened. A lot of things have happened to change the state of play in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. One of the biggest things that's happened is we effectively have a new Emperor of the Imperium now.
In all but name,
in all but name. He is the steward, the regent of the Imperium. But you know what? The actual Emperor isn't doing very much right now. He's just sitting on his throne, assuming he's still sitting on his throne, that is. Not doing very much. Whereas Roboute Guilliman, the Primarch of the Ultramarines, recently resurrected by a very shady conspiracy of Eldar and Dark Eldar and Adeptus Mechanicus priests and certain parts of the Inquisition, has made his way to Terra, has had a little bit of a chat with his dad, is not happy at all. I mean, you have to bear in mind, Guilliman he's from 10,000 years ago. He hasn't seen what the Imperium has become. His idea of what the Imperium should be is what his father's idea was, which is not only a million miles away from what the Imperium has manifested now, but it's Antipodean. They wanted an Imperium that was totally secular, totally dedicated to enlightenment and learning and the advancement of humanity. And of course, what's it become? It's become this mire, this hell of superstition and ignorance and enshrined repression. Guilliman is not happy, I can tell you. In fact, he makes certain statements in the new main 40k rulebook that are not a million miles away from some of the sentiments that the Primarchs that would become traitor made 10,000 years ago. And that's a little concerning.
It is. He appears to be wanting to push against what the Imperium has become in a way that's not a million miles away from how Horus
wanted
originally to push against the Imperium. The only difference being he is pushing against it with what the backbone of the Imperium originally was when he was kicking about, the Imperium Secundus. What I found really interesting about the current state of play is that with the Imperium being split in twain, as it has been.
By the Cicatrix Maledictum, ladies and gentlemen.
God, I love that
the
name.
Cicatrix Maledictum. I think all of us, when the new map of the galaxy, the 40k galaxy, hit the internets, all of us were a little bit shocked to see that the Eye of Terror ain't really that big a deal anymore. Considering that the entire galaxy is now split in half by a warp storm that completely dwarfs it. The Cicatrix Maledictum, brought about by a number of factors by the looks of things. I mean, part of it is because of what Abaddon and the Black Legion did on Cadia. If anyone played the Gathering Storm campaign, what happened on Cadia was one of the worlds that was holding the warp at bay. There are all of these alien pylons all over Cadia. And in fact, they're not just on Cadia, they're on lots of different planets scattered about the universe. And nobody knew what they did. Nobody knew what they were doing, but Abaddon and the Black Legion were systematically targeting them. And as it turns out, Cadia was the last world on which they functioned, on which they stood at this point. And he obliterated them. He managed to destroy Cadia, essentially. Which has revealed that these pylons were effectively the linchpins of reality. Yeah. They were holding it together. They were holding the warp back. And they're gone now. So the warp is now spilling through into material reality. You've got a situation where a fundamental seam of reality has given way. And now there's no need of any sort of abstruse sorcery or technology for the demons or for the Chaos Space Marine legions or the mutant traitor hordes to spill out of the Eye of Terror. They can get out as and when they like. And all over the universe, all over, and they are doing. En masse, by all accounts.
But the thing that really stands out to me is that there's a couple of ways through the giant tear in reality. The safest one being next to the Eye of Terror.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, that's the safest way.
Yeah, that is a very good example of how far the state of play has shifted. The safe port now is through the Eye of Terror.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, according to the rulebook, that it is not a safe way by any means, because what's happened since the traitor legions have sort of moved out, they've sort of spilled out. You've got lots of renegade knight households and lots of ancient traitor chapters and lots of mutant hordes and pirates and aliens and things taking up residence there. So it's actually not that safe at all. It just happens to be the most stable route.
Yeah. It's not safe, but it is the safest.
Yeah.
There's another one, and I can't remember the name of it now, and it like opens and closes at random.
Oh, so you could go in,
yeah,
and then find yourself swallowed by the warp.
Yeah.
Not be able to get out again.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
So, as I was saying before about the Imperium Secundus, it looks like the Imperium is physically split. The problem is, and I didn't think this is where they were going to go with it. The Emperor and Guilliman are on one side. Everything on the other side is left to its own devices because there is next to no way through.
No, it's even worse than that, though. It's even worse, because they could have at least communicated with them.
Yeah.
If the Astronomicon was still in place, which it isn't. It's one of the more interesting things in the new fluff. After Guilliman arrives on Terra, and after he has a bit of a chat with his dad, the Astronomicon flickers out. And it has come back on, but intermittently and sporadically and much weaker than before. It's sort of sputtering like a dying candle flame. And for those who don't know, ladies and gentlemen, the Astronomicon is sort of like, it's a beam of radiance that shines through warp space that the Emperor projects, and it's the beacon by which that the Imperial fleets can navigate through the warp. So it effectively makes the Imperium. Without it, there is no Imperium, because the worlds that comprise it can't communicate with one another, and they can't travel between one another. And the fact that has gone out means that the rulebook says this explicitly, there is no Imperium anymore.
Yeah. It's sundered completely and utterly.
It's gone back to how it was back in the dark days, the age of strife.
Yes.
When all of the worlds were cut off from one another and they had to evolve on their own. We're back at that point. So essentially, things have been taken back almost to year zero.
Do you think they're going to switch it back on, or do you think this is going to be it from this point forward?
I'm not sure. I think it's going to be one of the consistent mysteries as to exactly what has happened. I don't think they're going to provide a clear answer, at least not for many, many years yet.
No.
We may get little hints and suggestions. I mean, there's even doubt set up as to what Guilliman is doing. He doesn't outright state it, but there is a suggestion that he may have euthanized the Emperor, given what he became, and that he's got a better idea. That Guilliman may have a better idea of how to reunite the Imperium. I mean, that what they're setting up essentially is a new Great Crusade situation. So Guilliman is echoing what his father did. They've even gone down the route where he's created new Space Marines, better Space Marines. You know, the Primaris. So, and they're his Crusade force. So what Guilliman is doing is spreading out from Terra now with his fleets, trying to reunite all of the planets and systems that have been cut off, thanks to the Astronomicons flickering out.
So what's happening on the other side of the Great Divide? So on shall we say on our side?
On our side,
Terra,
yeah.
We'll start with on our side, actually. So Guilliman came back. He may or may not have smothered the Emperor with a pillow.
Yep.
He then had to put up with the fact that, and this is quite a big one considering the fact it's in the fluff as being something that has happened, not something that is going to happen or is currently happening. Terra got besieged again.
It did.
I can't get my head around the fact. I love it, don't get me wrong. I love this as a piece of fiction that's now happened. But the fact that it's happened and it's not something that is happening now.
No, it's happened. It's gone through.
It's brilliant.
I was really surprised by that, because all the way through, from the moment I first started reading this kind of lore and fiction, Terra has been inviolate. It's always been the stronghold. It's been safeguarded against any negative influence. You would imagine the Imperium's power is absolute there. But that is simply not the case anymore. Since the advent of 8th Ed, there's a Gene Stealer cult on Terra, we know that. And also, I mean, and this is an example of just how waxing the power of the Chaos Gods actually is at the moment. Khorne managed to chuck 88 demon legions against the gates of the Imperial Palace. That's insane. That hasn't happened since the Horus Heresy.
In fact, I think it's actually more dangerous than the Horus Heresy, because the Horus Heresy took legion upon legion upon legion of traitor marines and titans and all that type of thing to get as far as they did.
Yeah.
This one seems to have got roughly about the same place, with a fraction of what Horus brought.
Absolutely, and it just happened spontaneously as well. I mean, it was just because Khorne was angry. That's it. That's it. There wasn't any abstruse plan or anything like that. He just got really angry and chucked all of his demon legions at the gates of terror. That's it. So the power of the Chaos Gods now is unfathomably strong.
Yes,
unfathomably
it really
strong.
is.
And we're getting more of that too. I mean, one of the major distractions Gilman has had is that his own realm of Ultramar is under siege now too.
Yep.
The demon legions of Nurgle are spilling through onto it, and also the Death Guard now, who for the longest time have been an inchoate force. They've been like scattered warbands across the universe and throughout the Eye of Terror. Not anymore. They're unified again. They've actually become unified under the only guy who could unify them, really, and that's their Primarch, Mortarion, who is leading them in a merry dance of destruction across the worlds of Ultramar, and spreading plague and disease and contagion all along the way.
I love the fact that we have Mortarion back.
Yep, he's knocking about.
Yep. We haven't seen him properly yet.
We haven't
We've
seen
just
the
seen
model,
glimpses and little shadows and whatnot.
but there is some lovely artwork of him in the 40k
really is.
book, and he looks gorgeous. If that's what he's going to look like, great, absolutely fabulous.
Totally.
He's a very nice mixture of how he appeared in the original Epic model, which is essentially the Grim Reaper. He just looks like the Grim Reaper.
Yes.
And how he looks in the later manifestations, where he's more Primarch-like, where he's got armor and technology and stuff like that. My favourite part of the redesign is the wings.
Yeah, they are gorgeous.
Love the wings. He's got a sort of moth-like thing going on, a sort of ragged moth-like thing. And if you look at them, they've got like two big blemishes at one point, and when they're spread, the two blemishes and his head make the symbol of Nurgle.
I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah, it's quite cool.
That's brilliant.
It's quite lovely. I mean, the last we saw of him in the book, the last thing that happened, there was a confrontation between Gilman and Mortarion, and it doesn't say which one won. All it says is that the two forces remove from one another. They both retreat. So we don't really know. There's some ambiguity there. We also have on this side of the Cicatrix Maledictum, Sorciarius. Sorciarius is here, very close to Terra. Magnus isn't there, interestingly, at the moment, because the last thing we saw of Magnus, and of Ahriman, in fact, they were being hurled into the webway.
Yes.
So
they're kicking about doing something, we just don't know what yet.
I'm expecting, ladies and gentlemen, a campaign based on that. I think what we'll get at some point is a campaign book that details the Harlequins, the Eldar, and the Drukhari as they are now, the Dark Eldar, and will also provide Thousand Sons specific or Zeech specific army lists, which will be, it'll either be a war in the webway or it'll be Magnus's re-emergence into the material universe alongside Ahriman, something like that.
I would be quite happy if it's a war in the webway.
That would be cool.
Because then you get to explore the webway in a way that's never been done before.
Yeah, it's never really... I mean, barring the descriptions of Comora and its satellite regions, we've never really had a decent, good look at the webway.
But it's never been used as a setting, as far as I'm aware.
No, I mean, the only time I can think is in certain... Not in like Black Library novels. You very rarely get to see it. It was used in some of the fiction in The Gathering Storm. There was a confrontation between Ahriman's forces and the Eldar, the Inari Eldar, within the webway, which did not turn out very well for either side. Actually, for either side, there was a point where Ahriman very cruelly actually nearly cast the souls of the entire Eldar fleet to Zeech itself. Really quite cool. Really quite cool.
Okay.
But that's where Ahriman was lost, and he's tumbling through the webway by all accounts, chasing some of his brothers from the Rubricae who are no longer Rubricae anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, they were restored.
Oh.
They were restored by Inead.
That's interesting.
They were restored by Inead, which is interesting.
That makes sense.
Isn't it? Yeah. Because, of course, Inead has the power to reverse time. It has power over death. So anything that has died can be restored.
Yeah. Now that's very interesting.
It is,
Are we
isn't
going to
it?
see the? Are we going to see the death cult, the elder death cult, become friends with Zench?
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, they are.
Yeah, that's a good question.
They are
That's
one of
interesting.
the more active factors of the Eldar right now. The Inari are all over the place, but they're primarily scattered through the webway.
Yeah. So, what else is going on the other side?
On the other
Because
side...
there is something going on, and it brings me joy. And I don't know if you want to get to it first, or if you want to do other things.
Oh, there's so much, though. There's so much that's so cool that's happening. Essentially, on the other side, it's the Dark Imperium. So
Yes.
the Astronomicon, just even the flickering beams of it can't reach it. They can't get through the Cicatrix Maledictum. So those worlds are regressing at a rate of knots down into chaos and anarchy and feudalism. You're getting the emergence of all of these satellite worlds that are declaring independence from the Imperium and becoming their own little fiefdoms and empires. So you're getting like pirate empires and things like that. You're getting entire heretical cults that are taking over worlds. You're getting renegade space marine chapters that are taking over worlds and setting up their own empires. You're getting imperial chapters whose worlds are being destroyed, whose home worlds are being wiped out or swallowed by warp storm, so they're actually becoming nomadic. And one of the most interesting things that's happening over there, for me anyway, is what's happening on Armageddon.
What's happening on Armageddon?
Well, Armageddon's always been one of those hard luck planets in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. So it makes you wonder just how much a planet can sustain before it just falls apart.
Well, there's a simple way to stop that from happening. Don't call your planet
That
Armageddon.
might help. I mean, they really did. They tempted fate with that one, didn't they? They tempted Zeech with that one. But as Armageddon, as all of you out there know, is war-torn. It's had multiple wars flung at it, all of which have been insane. But what's happened is the last war, which has been raging for God knows how many centuries, which is between the Orcs and the Imperium, has now been halted to a certain degree because there's an enormous demon legion and world eater force sweeping through and across the planet. So the Orcs and the Imperium have been forced to fight together just to survive.
That's cool.
That's so cool.
Is Thraka still on Armageddon?
I think he is, yeah, and I think Yarrick is as well.
Oh man, can you imagine Thraka and Yarrick
Getting
working
together. Wow. I mean, that's a fractious alliance if ever there was one. God almighty, how is that ever going to work?
Well, it's not. That's the thing.
I know
Because
that,
Yarrick lives to kill Thraka. That's the only thing in his life.
That's it. It's the only thing in his life. And Thraka doesn't hate Yarrick, which I kind of like. He kind of admires him.
He does. It's why he kept changing his armor to look more and more like Yarrick.
Yeah. He well, who wouldn't? I mean, he's a tough old bird. Is Yarrick? He's probably the toughest human in the 40k universe.
Oh yeah. Well, look what he walks around with. He's ripped a power claw off an orc knob to use as a weapon
after his own arm had been snipped off by it. I mean, he's a cool guy. Is Yarrick?
I love Yarrick.
I do. I mean, I'm not that interested in the human characters in the 40k universe, but I really, really like. But another interesting little detail: this Khorne force that's on Armageddon attempted a ritual to bring Angron back, by all accounts, and according to the book, it didn't work. It failed. But that they're so clearly leaving that as a little holding place, a holding pattern for a later campaign. You're going to get, when the Angron model is released, and it will be, ladies and gentlemen, that's where he'll come back. He'll come back on Armageddon. That's when you'll get your World Eaters Codex or your Khorne-specific Codex for the new 40k.
That's cool.
And a big old Angron model. I'll be pleased about that.
Yes,
Dead
very
pleased.
much
Especially
so.
if they base him on some of the artwork that's come out of Demon Angron in some of the slightly older Horus Heresy books. I'll be dead pleased about that because he looks great.
I'm fairly sure. Actually, this is a good place to drop the question in. Are we getting a full load of Primarchs reappearing? Or do you think it's just going to be a splattering? I think most of the Chaos Primarch, the Demon Primarchs, are going to make an appearance.
Well, I think there's one thing we can be sure of. All of the Cult Primarchs are coming. There's no doubt. I mean, the Gathering Storm 3 set up Fulgrim really clearly. Fulgrim will be coming. I imagine Fulgrim might be coming before Angron, actually. With regards to the others, like the Undivided demon Primarchs like Perturabo and Lorgar? Don't know. Not sure. Maybe. I'd like that to be the case. Certainly.
Yeah.
I'd be very pleased with that, especially Lorgar. I'd love to
yes.
see Lorgar come out of his reclusium after 10,000 years and stop meditating and actually do something.
Just walks out, blinking into the sunlight and just going, what did I miss?
Yeah, but funnily enough, he will be in the same position as Gilman.
Yes. Well, this is something I'm moving towards. The idea of having Gilliman and Logar kind of on being the different ends of the same coin here would be a fascinating story. Just Gilliman trying to do his thing over here, and Logar trying desperately to work out what the hell happened when he was in his reclusive state.
That'd be great, actually. What I would really like to see is Lorgar come out of his reclusium state and then be disgusted with his Legion too.
Yeah.
With Erebus and Corphaeron and what they've made of the word bearers. Because if you read the more recent the word bearers fiction that occurs more recently in the 40k universe, it's very clear that they are not what they were. They're not what they were.
Long way from.
Sort of at the beginning of their heresy, when they were genuine metaphysicians and they were seeking answers. Now they've become this very sort of 17th century Catholic Church kind of thing, where they are entirely beholden to dogma and stricture, and there's no questioning, there's no exploration.
Yeah.
It's interesting that. But I don't know. I think we probably will. I think if they're alive, I think a good rule of thumb, if the Primarchs are alive in some way, state or form, we'll probably get them back.
So chances are we're going to see Lehman Russ make an appearance at some point.
Well, one of the more consistent rumour mongers, Sad Panda, has said that, yeah, Lehman Russ is done. Lehman Russ has been done for a long time. And by all accounts, he's going to be a really big Wolfen.
Oh.
Like a really big Wolfen.
That would be interesting. Actually, that fits in quite nicely with what you were saying before about the different chapters kind of building out their own fiefdoms. Because if anybody, any Marine chapter, any Marine Legion out there is going to build its own empire, it's going to be the Space Wolves.
Actually, I'm going to be really interested to see where the Space Wolves go from here.
Yeah, actually.
Because I can't see them taking that kindly to Gilman's new empire.
No. The animosity between the Space Wolves and the Ultramarines is well documented.
It is. Well, the Space Wolves and everyone, let's face it. Is there anyone they haven't pissed off at some point?
Salamanders?
Possibly the Salamanders. I'm sure there's something somewhere in one of the Horus Heresy books where they have, though. It wouldn't surprise me in the least. The Dark Angels. We don't really know what the Dark Angels are doing at the moment, but what we do know is that they came perilously close to having their secret revealed.
Yes.
Perilously close. And that could be very interesting. I would like to see the Dark Angels become even more mysterious, to the point whereby it's difficult to determine whose side they're on.
That would be interesting, and also be an interesting one to do in the rules as well.
Yeah, definitely. Also, Luther's gone.
Really?
Yeah, Luther's not in his prison anymore in the middle of the rock.
Oh.
Yeah, he escaped. The Changeling helped him escape at the end of Gathering Storm. No, yeah, was it the Gathering Storm? No, it was one of the Wrath of Magnus books. Helped him to escape. Don't know where he is. Don't know what happened to him, but he's not there anymore.
The board really has been completely reset.
It has. It really has. So we just
George, can I do it now? Can I do it now? Because I don't think I can hold it in for much longer.
Go ahead. Go.
Blood angels are being completely devoured and eaten and kicked around by my lovely, lovely Tyranids. You think you had it bad before. You're getting devoured on all sides by things with more mouths than teeth.
Poor blood angels, eh? I mean, they've gotten a kicking in the new lore.
They have been and don't get me wrong, I have a love of the Blood Angels. I think they're a great chapter, and the only way I'd be happier is if it was the Ultramarines again.
Yeah.
But that's fine. That's absolutely
fine. Well, they've been kicked
It's
in the teeth by Mortarion and the Death Guard, so that's okay.
That's true. But if it had been the Tyranids, I would have been I'd have been rolling on the floor laughing. You would not have. There would be no podcast. It would just be 25 minutes of giggling.
But yeah, High Fleet Leviathan is.
It's so good to see the Tyranids not just doing something, but living up to their reputation.
To their status. I mean, the Blood Angels are one of the more established chapters as well. They're one of the stronger chapters out there, and they are getting their teeth kicked in by High Fleet Leviathan. I don't know whether
the entire Baal system is getting just absolutely ruined.
Well, it's getting so bad that they've had to call in all of their successor chapters to fight the war, and they're totally besieged now. They can't do anything but fight.
No.
Which I think they're going to use it. I hope they do. I think they're going to use it as a means of changing the dynamic of the Blood Angels a little bit, of moving them on. So. I think they're going to descend quite a lot deeper into the Black Rage.
Yes,
I
completely
think
and utterly.
Their aesthetics are going to change quite profoundly. I think they're going to be a darker army from here on in.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that there will be a big campaign based on that, and that it will be the Tyranids and the Blood Angels primarily, and their successor chapters. And what would please me quite a lot is if they went with the Blood Angels, what they've done with the Space Wolves, if they made them more abstruse, less Space Marine-like, and more... Well, since the Space Wolves have a whole sort of wolf and werewolf thing going on, and the Blood Angels, they could do a whole vampire thing. That'd be kind of cool. I'd go for that.
Yeah, to see them really push the neo-Gothic style right the way out there.
Well, the Blood Angels kind of need it, because they've been...
They do.
I like the lore of the Blood Angels. I love the imagery. I love the angelic stuff. I love Sanguinius, but they've been very static for a very long time.
I don't think they've changed much since the 90s, to be honest with you.
Not really. They had the introduction of things like the Sanguinor and stuff like that, but they were just extensions of the existing background, really. They need something to unify them and to make them a bit more interesting in the way that the Space Wolves have had.
Yes, in the way that they've got the Wolfen and things like that. Although I do want to hear there are no vampires on Baal.
There are no vampires on Baal. No, there are. Well, they're all vampires really, because they all drink blood as part of their rituals and rites, don't they?
They do. It's a cool one, and when I read that, it just brought joy to my heart to see, because the Tyranids they've been a threat in name only for so long.
Yeah.
They haven't been the danger that they need to be.
No.
Since third?
I'm trying to think of what they've actually done. You know what I mean? What they've actually done in the more recent fluff, and there isn't much.
No, not since they introduced the invasion of Macragge happening in the past.
That's right, yeah. That
which
was,
I'm sure was third.
Yeah, that was third, and that was the last big thing. That was the last time the Tyranids had like a real shake-up and were really interesting. Since then, they've been fractured all over the universe, and you've had different hive fleets sifting in and out and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now they're doing stuff. They're actually making a significant change in the 40k universe. And Hive Fleet Leviathan isn't the only one, by the way. There are Tyranid hive fleets all over the universe now. Taking advantage of the situation. Feeding, just devouring entire galactic sectors and establishing new creatures from the gene pools they devour.
Yeah. What I'm quite liking is that there's it's never been outright said, but there's like reference and hints to the fact that the Hive Fleet came to this galaxy to escape something. Because it's always kind of been thought that they just devoured the hell out of whatever there was left in their galaxy. That there was nothing left in their galaxy, which is why they made that giant leap from theirs to ours.
Yeah, now that's interesting, isn't it?
But now it's kind of hinting that the Tyranid hive fleets were getting away from something.
Something more terrible than the Tyranids.
Yeah.
That's
insane. That is
frightening, isn't it?
Yeah,
and one thing you have to bear in mind,
that could be.
The Chaos Gods are frightened of the Tyranids.
Yes.
This is that I don't even want them to explain what it is. Just suggest it, that there is something coming.
Yeah, I don't ever want them to tell me what it is.
No, just something apocalyptic, Yeah. Yeah, that would be very cool indeed. Very cool.
I'm happy with it just being a hint. Because there is something that size. There is nothing good enough that they can come up with that would be as good as the stuff that you can imagine.
Oh God, no! It would kill it. Putting a face to it would absolutely kill it. It's a mistake that is often made in fiction. I have to say,
completely.
When you put a particular form or give an explanation to a particular threat, it diminishes it.
Yeah, it's the Freddy Krueger syndrome.
Yeah,
the more you explain, the more the monster is defined.
Exactly, and it's the Blair Witch syndrome,
Yeah.
Love the original film, think it's gorgeous, think it's really quite clever. The more recent remake shows you the witch. And it's not...
You don't need it.
It's just not scary, it's not frightening. All the threat is dragged away.
So what else is happening then?
What else?
How are the orcs doing?
The orcs are actually kind of having a good old time. The orcs are fine. The orcs are one of the few races in the universe that are actually really enjoying the state of play at the moment, because it means that they can just hurl themselves into warp storms, emerge all over the damn galaxy, and just descend on planets and fight. So they're quite pleased. The only ones that aren't are the ones on Armageddon, who are being forced to fight alongside human beings, which I can't imagine they like very much. That said, they are fighting against Khorne demons, so I imagine that's a fairly good scrap for them.
I suppose, it's a fight that nobody knows that they're going to win. So, the orcs are just going to be like, oh, yeah.
Actually, I'm just looking at the map here, and the Rock is near Armageddon.
Okay.
That's interesting. So the Rock may actually be heading towards Armageddon to help out. Maybe. It's hard to tell with the Dark Angels, isn't it? It's very hard to tell.
Yeah, you never know what their plans are. It's impossible.
Absolutely
I tell
impossible,
you.
yeah. And even when you think you know, you probably don't.
Yeah. Deathwing. Grumble, grumble.
They've always got some alternative agenda.
That's true. That's always true when it comes to the Dark Angels. Sons of bitches. Take away my Deathwing. Grumble, grumble. So... The Isles, that's the wrong fiction.
It's the Eldari, isn't it?
The Eldari,
well,
yes.
The Eldari are an odd one because they are scattered all across the universe right now, but there is the new faction of them. Mm-hmm. There's the Inari, and the Inari are an odd mixture of Craftworld Eldar and Dark Eldar from Comera, who are united under this very, very odd new metaphysics, this new god that they've given birth to, which... Yeah. Is kind of ambiguous. Inead, the god of the dead, presumably. Although in the fiction, in the background, there are these wonderful little suggestions, and even in the model itself, if you look at it, that it may not be what they think it is.
And see, I'm thinking that this is something Slaneshi.
Yeah.
It's something that they've made a big mistake.
There's a hint of that.
Again.
There's a hint of that, definitely. If you look at the model, it's got very Slaneshi elements to it. The hermaphroditic quality of it, very Slaneshi. But insofar as we are aware, Inead is the resurrected god of the dead of the Eldar, and is the means by which they can now function in the universe without the need for spirit stones. When an Eldar dies, its soul can now be absorbed by Inead, rather than being dragged into the warp and devoured by Slanesh, presumably. And the Inari are up to something. We don't know what it is. They've already orchestrated the resurrection of Robert Gilman. They've already inspired the new crusade across the galaxy from Terra. But we don't know what they're doing. We don't know what the end game is. It's very difficult to figure out. Because they're odd for Eldar. They're very odd, or Eldari, in that they do interact with human beings. And they seem, on the face of it, to acknowledge that without human beings, they're going to die.
Yeah.
They're going to fail. Hence the resurrection of Gilman, which is the oddest thing.
Yeah, the idea of Eldar and Adeptus Mechanicus working together, it seems very much against both of their traits.
It does, but they are. Very quite happily by the looks of it. I mean, Belisarius Cawl, who is the arch fabricator of Mars at the moment and the head of the Mechanicum, he's very happy working with them. He's been working with them for God knows how long, since he's been alive since the Horus Heresy, and has potentially been working with some sub-factions of the Eldar since then.
Yeah.
So there is this definite link between the Eldar and the Imperium, certain factions of the Eldar and the Imperium now. You also still have the traditionalist craft worlds out there who won't have any of it, who don't like the Inari, who regard them as deluded, who regard them as dangerous. You've got the fractioning of Ulthwé now, because Ulthwé is no longer a united craft world. Eldred Ulthran, who was the High Farseer of Ulthwé at one point, has been cast out. of Ulthway,
Right.
because of his tinkering with the dead, because of his links to Inead and the Inari. He's with the Inari now, and Ulthway is now ruled by his proteges, by the High Council of Farseers. He's actually regarded as a bit of a black sheep now,
Right.
which is interesting.
Yeah.
Well, really, I mean, in the Gathering Storm books, he revealed himself as being a bit of a bastard, really. He very blithely went around basically grave robbing the, the domes of Crystal Seers, where in the Eldercraft
Yes,
worlds,
yeah.
where the Farseers whose bodies have become psychometric crystal go. He stole into the domes of Crystal Seers and other craft worlds and nicked the crystalline bodies of other Farseers to bring about the rebirth of Inead. And it didn't go down well. Didn't go down well at all.
Well, it wouldn't. Stealing a couple of corpses of famous people,
No.
it's never going to go well.
So you've got craft worlds out there that are... Some of them are aligned to the Inari, and many of them are not. So the Eldar are kind of factionalized now too. Same with the Dark Eldar. Some of the Dark Eldar now follow the Inari and Inead. Some of them are still in Comora, and Comora is overrun now. Comora
Right.
is not a stable civilization anymore. The big gate that was being kept locked in the bowels of Comora has burst open, and demons are spilling through. The factor that was keeping Comora stable, which is Azdrabale Vect and his Cabal, no longer operate there. They've retreated from it and left it to its own devices. Although there are suggestions that Azdrabale Vect preempted it all. He foresaw all of this and has plans underway to bring Comora back under his control. The Homunculi Coven have retreated to their pocket dimensions and their dungeons throughout Comora, and they're up to something too. They're up to something, and we don't know what it is, but it's separate from what the other Eldar, Dark Eldar, are doing. And
Do you think this is going to eventually unify the Eldar?
I don't know. I really don't know, because what it seems to be doing at the moment is factionalizing them. What it seems to be doing is creating even more versions of the Eldar. I don't know. I honestly have no idea whether there are going to be united Eldari codices from this point on, or whether they're actually going to be like, say, the Chaos Space Marine Legions, where you're going to get codices that are for each specific faction.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Because that's what I'm wondering. Is this going to be a fracturing and splintering to bring them all together, or is it to, as you say, create Eldar chapters? For want of a better term.
I mean, it's hard to say, because if you look at the index book, is really well done, because it features 3 army lists essentially, which is the Eldari, Drukhari, and the Elder Harlequins, and they're all separate, but you can mingle them together in the same way you can different forces of the Imperium or different forces of the of Chaos. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But that whatever happens, I do think the Inari in particular are going to play a significant part in any event that happens from this point on.
I think that's a very good bet to take. The Eldari seem to be the crux of everything going forward.
Well, they've been the ones that have initiated all the big changes thus far.
Yeah.
Them and Abaddon. Abaddon has initiated a lot of the big changes too. And I'm not quite sure where Abaddon is now. I don't know whether he's still around the ruins of Cadia, directing his legions, or whether he's doing something else at this point.
He's probably found himself in a nice little crone world somewhere, and he's just sitting on it expecting, going, well, so, I've done all this, what next? Because this was my entire point to be.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, it looks like Abaddon's winning.
Yes,
it really
very
does.
much like he's winning.
It really looks like he's winning. The only potential thorn in his side is Gilman.
Yeah.
And he may not be.
And I think that's a showdown that'll probably happen sooner rather than later.
I think so too. I think what will happen, we're definitely going to get a new Abaddon model. I will go on record as saying that whenever the next Chaos Codex comes out, and I'm inclined to believe it'll be sooner rather than later, we'll get a new Abaddon model. I think we'll get a new Abaddon, I think we'll get a new Fabius Bile, I think we'll get a new Typhus, and I think we'll get a new Lucius as well.
No, one of those trifecta box sets, 3 things.
I think so. And I think Abaddon, I've got a funny feeling Abaddon will be profoundly redesigned.
I think so too, because that miniature is 22 years old at this point.
I think what they're going to do is probably use the situation as an excuse for doing what they did with Archaon in AOS. They're going to completely revamp him. I think he's going to maybe find some, I don't know, some sort of power, some sort of weapon, some sort of steed, perhaps, and it's going to elevate him somehow. Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. Do
you think he'll go full Demon Prince, or do you think he'll stay?
I don't know. I don't think he will go full Demon Prince for the simple reason that it would be against a lot of the fluff that's been established for him.
Yeah,
I think the only reason he would ever go full Demon Prince is if he is dying. If he has no choice in the matter, then he might. But I don't think he will. No, I think if he does sort of change, if there is some sort of new state of Abaddon, I think it will probably be because of something he's found or something he's discovered for himself. I mean, they could just stick him on Dorgar, the Steed of the Apocalypse from AOS, and that would be fine. I'd be happy with that because it's a demon. It exists in all realities, so there's no reason why the 40k Chaos Messiah can't ride it in the same way that the AOS Chaos Messiah can't.
I hoped that they would do something a bit more original than that. But I'd be fine with that.
Me
That's
too.
fine. Yeah.
I think he's going to be big. I think he's going to be swollen with power. I think he is going to be Primarch level if they bring him back.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
I think he's going to be the equivalent of Horus.
God, can you imagine actually having a Horus level? Well, I suppose you've got other things to fight against him now, so there's no reason why not.
No, there's no reason. No, I mean, he would suit what's going on in the 40k universe now. And he is in the Ascendant. He's done a lot of stuff for the Chaos Powers. So there's no reason why they wouldn't pour all of their power into him, and make him really powerful, swollen with the blessings of the Dark Gods.
I can definitely see that taking place. So, what else is taking place? Is there anything else that's jumped out at you?
The only thing that's really... The only more significant thing that's happening that I can think of is that there is a tiny little bit of text that's sort of squirreled away in the Warhammer 40,000 book, the new one. And it's an odd little teaser. It's very naughty on Games Workshop's behalf. It's very deliberate. And it's just a paragraph that's partially scribbled out with the stamp classified on it. And all you can really see of it is the last line, which is "the master of mankind dead." So what that implies?
It could be that he is dead, or it could be that somebody wants him dead.
Who knows?
Could be that Gilliman wants him dead.
I would not be entirely surprised, given the things that Gilliman has expressed and given the states of despair that he's been driven to. I would not put it past Gilman to have just euthanized the Emperor. For it to be just like, you know what? It hasn't worked. It hasn't worked, Father. So let's move on. Let's make something better. Let's make something new. In your name, of course.
Yeah, if you euthanize him, then you can use him as a martyr.
Exactly. You can use him as a figurehead, can't you?
Yeah.
And Gilman is nothing if not pragmatic.
That's very true.
He is the most down-to-earth pragmatic of the Primarchs, with the possible exception of Perturabo. As he was, anyway. I'm not so sure in his demon state. I mean, he may not be as reasonable as a demon prince, but we'll have to wait and see.
How good would it be if he turned up and he was still incredibly reasonable?
That'd be ace. I'd be dead pleased with that. If he was logical and pragmatic and reasonable to a fault.
Yeah, that would be absolutely fantastic. I actually really want that to be the case.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be absolutely fabulous, actually. Yeah. I want him also to be like a big obliterator.
Yes.
I want him to be like the source of whatever flesh curse creates the obliterators and the mutilators. I think that'd be brilliant. And if he could form basically any shooty weapon in the game for himself.
It's just his hands just break down and reform into different weapons. Yeah, that'd be
really cool. In fact, one of the things I would love to see, I don't, if it's going to happen, I don't think it's going to happen for a very long time, but a campaign involving Medran Guard and the Iron Warriors and Perturabo would be fantastic.
That would actually be really nice.
Yeah, I'd like that.
I want it now.
But apart from that, the universe is just in disarray. It's in a much more dynamic state than it's ever been. It's desperate out there. It is absolutely desperate. And the Imperium, such as it is just holding on by a thread.
Yeah. And not just that, but it seems to be that the entirety of humanity is waning fast. Very, very quickly. Not just the Imperium as such, but humanity as a species is getting absolutely ruined on every level. The physical, the psychological, the social, the planets being destroyed left, right, and centre. The entire infrastructure of the Imperium is pretty much gone.
It's falling to bits.
It's and the only hope is Gilliman and his interesting state of mind.
His Indomitus Crusade.
That's such a good name for it.
It is. It really is cool.
But whilst the Eldar and the Chaos Gods seem to be rising and rising fast, it really is the Dark Imperium. It's not just a name. We have got the Grimdark has become grimmer and darker.
At long last, eh? I mean, it's been very stable despite everything, all the stuff that's happened over the God knows how many editions of 40k. It's always been relatively stable. There have always been parts of the background that have been established and would never change. They would all Terra being sovereign, for example. Not anymore. It actually feels like anything could potentially happen.
Well, that's what I like, is all the way through this I've asked questions of how you feel things are going to change, because it's almost impossible to second guess what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
We can take informed guesses and ideas, but to say with certainty that this is what's going to happen here, this is what's going to happen here, it's almost impossible, because the 40k universe has been broken. And now it's getting rebuilt, and I'm loving it.
Me too. It started for me the minute the Primarchs came back, the minute Magnus the Red turned up, and then that it became possible for there to be Primarchs again in the 40k universe. For me, that was it. That means that the state of play has been blown wide open, and many parameters and seals have been blown off the universe. The fiction can now expand in numerous ways, unfathomable ways, and I do think my guess is what we're going to see with the campaigns that are clearly coming. I mean, that's what this book sets up. It's what the new lore sets up. Multiple campaigns that are going to reintroduce lots of armies into the 40k universe. B is going to shift the state of play on. It's going to actually shift the narrative and mythology on. But also C, I think it's going to they're going to be means by which certain forces can be redefined and remarketed, which is all very exciting.
It is, and anything that takes the 40k universe and expands and pushes, I think is going to be a very interesting place to be, especially over the next couple of years, when we start to see what the roadmap is for the new 40k. I'm excited.
Me too.
I'm very excited.
Me too. I am. Could not be happier. I actually could not be happier about the state of the game and of the universe and all that stuff. Just the potential for it.
And also, we don't usually talk about the miniatures very much, but I am currently sitting with the new Death Guard right in front of me.
Yeah, they're awesome.
They're
beautiful. Absolutely stunning, and they're not the only ones either. I mean, we've already seen glimpses of the other stuff that's coming, like the Terminators that haven't been released yet. We've seen glimpses of them. We've seen
that new tank.
Yeah, that weird sort of nurgly tank thing. That's great. I can't wait. I think that they're definitely obviously using it as an excuse to just move the Death Guard away from just being a Chaos army that uses all the same things. They're going to have their own rhinos and their own tanks and their own flyers, which is great. Exactly what I want to see. And I hope they do the same with the Zeech forces later.
I think that's a very strong case. I think that's going to happen.
I think so too. I think we're going to get maybe a Zeech flyer. That'd be nice. Like a Doom Wing
can you imagine
or something.
A Zeech version of that Grav tank that got leaked?
Yeah, that'd be ace. Yeah, Grav tanks, something like that would be lovely for Zeech, actually. Something that's elevated by sorcery rather than by mechanisms. Yeah. I mean, a Silver Tower would be the best thing.
God, can you imagine if they actually brought out a Silver Tower?
An actual Silver Tower. That would be...
It'd be Titan-sized.
Yeah.
It'd be ridiculous.
It would be Titan-sized. It would have to be Titan-sized, but it would also be mental. Because the Silver Tower... You've seen like the depictions of the Silver Towers in the artwork? they shift and change, and they operate in non-Euclidean dimensions. So it's like it's gonna have to be a mental miniature, that one.
It's actually modular. You have to change how it looks each turn. Yeah.
That would be brilliant. Impractical, but loads of fun.
Ridiculous. But...
That would be great. If I mean, maybe not modular, but maybe if they made the kit such that you could stick it together in lots of different configurations.
Yeah.
That would be fabulous.
So basically, what we're saying is that the new 40k is a fascinating thing to read through and a fascinating thing to look at, and we're both very excited at how this is moving forward.
Yeah, unambiguously.
Yeah. So we're going to finish off now with something that we're going to try and do every now and again, which is listener questions.
Oh, frightening.
Yeah, are you ready for this?
Yeah, go ahead.
We've got a couple, so this should be quite good. Christopher Carlson says, well, to start with, why do you say it's all the Slan's fault? I thought that there was the daddy old ones that started the whole mess, or did I miss them starting the end times or something? Right. Way back in Warhammer Fantasy, when it was Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and I don't know, it was Warhammer Fantasy Battles from the start, wasn't it?
And all the miniatures were poisonous. They're all made of lead.
Yes, super deadly lead. In the first and second editions, the Slan were the giant frog people that came down from the stars, reformed the entirety of the Warhammer world. So Lustria, I don't even think it was called Lustria at that point.
I don't think it was. No, I don't think the concept of Lustria existed back then.
No, I don't think it did. They raised the temperature of the world. They created all the different races in order to have slave races, and then decided to create a warp gate on the Warhammer world so they could get from this planet to other planets. It collapsed spectacularly, released magic into the world, and created the Realm of Chaos.
Yep.
So basically, if you go right the way back to the first and second editions of Warhammer, everything that happens in the Warhammer world is down to those stupid frogs.
Yep.
Those damn frogs did it all.
Yep,
all of them.
It's their fault. It's their fault. I mean, everything is their fault, technically, because they're the creators of all life.
Yes.
In both the Warhammer world and the 40k universe, technically.
Yeah.
But actually, in the 40k universe, they're slightly different, aren't they? They've transmuted into the old ones.
Yes, the old ones is the formless version of the Slan.
Yeah, and they are not the creators of all life, although they did create some of the species, like the Eldar, who they created to fight the Engear, who were the Necrons.
Yes.
And they also potentially created the Orcs, which were an attempt to fight back chaos, and potentially also maybe perhaps the Tyranids.
It's a possibility, but it's only ever been hinted at.
Yeah, it's only ever been hinted at. But I don't think they created the universe. They're actually operants within the universe, aren't they?
Yeah. They exist within and created their own tools, which went out of control, as these tools often do.
As is their want, you know?
Yes. I'm trying to remember what the hell the orcs were called when they created them.
Oh, yeah, they had a specific name, didn't they?
Yeah, it was like Hjork or something like that.
I cannot remember for the life of me.
Not off the top of my head. It's one line in one book somewhere.
Yeah, it lost to the mists of time.
Yeah. Matt Clark asks, what would be a good starting out point for a newbie in terms of media and fiction alike?
Horus
the
Rising.
New 40k?
Yeah, the new 40k, Horus Rising. The first Horus Heresy books would be really good. It's difficult because it depends on... The universe changes and shifts so much that going back to the older editions would not necessarily be that advised. Because things have changed. Certain parts of the background have been changed. And there's so much of it, you would get swamped, you'd get buried. I mean, can you imagine having to read through all of the Index Astartes and all of the little add-ons and things? It'd be a nightmare. Absolute nightmare.
If you came into it now, that's not going to happen.
I'd advise reading Horus Rising, because that establishes some of the main points. It establishes some of the main fulcrums upon which the universe turns. I'd advise just getting the new 40k book, because that does give you a very nice pared down basis for the universe and all of the armies. I'd advise reading specific examples of the Horus Heresy books after the first two. The first Heretic is essential.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly with that.
The first Heretic is absolutely essential to understand what's happening and what's going on, and to understand the metaphysics of the universe. After that, really, it's pick and choose. It depends on what you want to know about.
I think if you wanted to get into 40k, I do think that the new rulebook, the new background fluff, is a brilliant starting point.
Yeah, well, it's simplified. That's the best thing about it. It's pared down.
Streamlined.
It's streamlined. It's not just like all of the old stuff just transplanted in. It gives you a nice pared down basis from which to go and explore more widely if you want to.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. From a fiction point of view, I do think you're probably right there with the first Heretic. I think that it's because it goes through so much of the bare bones of what the Imperium is, which can be fleshed out with later books down the line. I think that is essential starting point reading. Age of Sigmar. That's a bit of a tough one because Age of Sigmar is still getting built.
It is, and it's also a continuation of another mythology, so it depends on how deep you want to go. You could go right back to the very beginning, as Adam just explained about the very old fluff about the Slann and whatnot, in which instance you'd need to go very far back. That's the beginning of the story, technically. But it's not essential at all. You don't need to know that stuff to appreciate the universe.
No.
You could go just back to the beginning of AOS. So you could just go back to the first campaign books that were released, and they give you a fairly good overview of what's happening out there. Or you could start with the End Times books, if you can get your hands on them, from the latter days of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, which they provide very detailed accounts of what the races were, what the state of play was before the realms came about, and also provide details of the cataclysm that is only hinted at in the current books.
In the Age of Sigmar. I think if you wanted to get into the Warhammer world as such, the Felix and Gotrek books would probably be the best starting point, because they are light, fluffy, and pulpy. Yeah. They're not difficult to read at all, and I think that's a nice inroad to getting in. For Age of Sigmar, City of Secrets is fan-bloody-tastic.
Yeah.
I think from that point, though, I think just reading the background book.
Yeah, that's the best way to go, really. But I mean, the way I think most people discover this stuff is something in particular snares their interest. Usually when they're children.
Yes.
And it'll be an image, it'll be a bit of artwork, it'll be a bit of background in one of the books or in a White Dwarf or something. And then if it snares your interest, go and read a bit further on that character or on that faction or that race or whatever, and it just swells out from there. That's certainly what happened with me. It just swells out from there. It's best to go at it naturalistically, I think, because you just follow your enthusiasms. That's the best way to do it.
Totally and utterly. In other words, Matt, I think you should buy Warhammer Quest: The Silver Tower. That's how I think you should get into it.
That's a really good game.
Yes, it's
a really good game, that is.
Matt Clark also asks, as Steam is doing a sale right now, thoughts on 40k video games?
Mixed bag.
Yeah,
Mixed bag.
I'm going to answer this with a very simple question. Orc hand puppet or nothing? We go to Umis, we go to war.
It's... video game adaptations of existing franchises tend to have a rough deal. They tend to have a rough time.
Yeah.
They don't tend to be very good. Now, 40k and Warhammer, and AOS as it is now, they lend themselves rather well to video games because they are games themselves. So there's something to readily adapt. Unfortunately, a lot of the games are not very good. They rely too much upon the established popularity of the franchises, or knowledge about the franchises. Either that, or they get it wrong. They get a hell of a lot wrong, and that's annoying. It particularly happens with things like pronunciation and languages and the way particular races operate within the video games and that kind of thing. But a lot of them are just bad video games too. They're just not very good.
That's true.
Some of them are excellent.
Kill Team is awful.
Yeah, some of them are excellent. I mean, Dawn of War So that's a very, very, very decent real-time strategy game. It's a very decent game. And ongoing. I mean, that still has support. It still has new stuff being introduced. So that one's well worth checking out.
Space Hulk has always been had the trouble of it being too close to the board game.
Yeah, I mean, some of the older games in particular, although there's plenty of new ones. If you look on the PS4 store, there's plenty of new ones that directly adapt games like Talisman and Silver Tower.
Talisman was so good.
Yeah, I love Talisman. Some of the older games, like the ones for the Amiga and whatnot, they are just direct adaptations of the board game. So the Space Crusade and Hero Quest games. For example.
So good.
Yeah, I loved them. I loved them as a kid. But they are just the board games. There's nothing else to them.
They are for the most part. But I do love the Space Crusade game for the fact that they removed Gene Stealers. And they put in Soul Stealers.
What was that? What was that?
I not a clue. Never been able to find out a reason.
Was it? I always felt as a kid that maybe it was some copyright thing. I don't know.
Not a clue. I've never been able to find out why that's the case.
I was very puzzled as a child as to that, and I was actually a bit miffed because I was that kind of kid. It's like, they're not Soul Stealers, they're Gene Stealers. What's that?
The redesign that they did with a weird elongated head and everything.
Yeah, they just
odd, very odd.
The laziest redesign imaginable.
On the plus side, though, the music to Space Crusade was fantastic.
It was, and it did have a really good atmosphere, actually.
It did, yeah.
Because you didn't know what was sort of around the corner. It could be anything. It could be like a Chaos Android, Necrons as they were, or it could be a Dreadnought. You just did not know.
And when you saw the Dreadnought, that's when the pants started to fill.
I could never kill it.
No, it was... You needed to have the missile launcher of Flamer to get it.
Yeah, I could never kill the damn thing. But barring that, there aren't that many good video games, I have to say. I mean, I haven't played the more recent Space Hulk one. Is it called Death Watch?
Yes,
I haven't played that, so I don't really know. But it looks good. It looks fine, but I don't know. So
unfortunately,
my advice would be cautious.
Gaming days are pretty much ended at this point, so I never get the time to play anything.
I mean, that's my problem as well. I love video games. I absolutely adore them, but getting the time to sit down and do them is a nightmare. So my advice would be to be really cautious and to play what you're going to buy before you buy it. Because there's a lot of crap. There's a lot of really bad stuff with the 40k label on it.
The Total War Warhammer, though, that gets lots of good reviews.
Yeah, from what I understand. I haven't played it myself, but...
Vermintide was very good. As was More Time, actually.
Yeah, More Time was very, very good. Again, because it was quite close to the actual board game.
Yeah. So there you go. There's some answers. We'll speed through a few more of these because we've only got a couple more to go. Andy Millman says, "Why do your wimpy greenskins keep losing to the might of your amazingly good, super good undead army?"
Well,
because Andy, we keep running out of time, and I don't get my orcs into combat enough to do some serious damage.
Oh, that's a shame.
Bastard.
I mean, I kind of like the greens. Mind you, that said, I like the undead better, so I'm kind of glad they're winning.
Shut up. My plan is actually to mount all of my Iron Jaws onto boars in order to get into combat faster.
Just to speed up the game process. I like that.
Yep. Andy Millman also asks, back in the day, they used to make black and white comics based in the GW universes. Which was your favourite? Mine was Titan.
Titan
was so good!
Titan was great. Yeah, I like Titan. Yeah. Mine was either Demonifuge or Malice Darkblade. Not quite sure which one. I like them both. I think Demonifuge is probably the one that gets it for me. Simply because it was very 2000 AD. I mean, a lot of the artists from 2000 AD worked on it. A lot of the writers did too. And it was just like almost like a Tales of the Unexpected in the 40k universe. So each issue would be its own little story. Something weird would be happening, and it would have lots of really wonderful, gribbly, hyper-detailed artwork. There'd be demons and there'd be tyrannids and things, and it was kind of fun.
And everything all had this very dreamy, washed-out look to it, which
very unusual.
I always quite enjoyed.
Yeah, it was very unusual. And you also had that whole nuns with guns thing going on, which is lots of fun.
Nuns, guns, and gasoline.
Yeah.
So I was going to go for Demonifuge. I think... I'm trying to remember what it was called. Blood Quest.
Blood Quest. Oh, Blood Quest. Yes, I forgot Blood Quest. That's great.
Blood Quest was a very, very, very good little comic that just ran across the Blood Angels.
Yeah, I love the characters.
And also Cal Jericho.
Yeah, Cal Jericho, the Rogue Trader. Yeah. That was always really good fun. There was another one. It was a Dark Angels one, and it was something like, what is the cost? The cost of life. That was it. Or something like that. And it was this chaplain constantly asking this commander, but the worth of life. The worth of life.
What is the worth of life? And the answer is to lay down my life for the glory of the Emperor. Yeah. But he doesn't get to it until the end. And yeah, that was really beautiful, very clean, crisp artwork. Yeah. It was gorgeous. What next? Andy Millman also asks, which is the best model you have ever seen in the GW history of making models? Not customs, just the model with badass painting. There's a question.
You know, it's difficult to answer because it depends. The different races and the different models tend to suit different painting styles. It depends. Like if you're painting undead or Nurgle, then you want a really dirty paint style. You want a really rough and ready paint style because they don't work if they're clean. If you use like what have been called the sort of French styles of painting miniatures, where everything is very cleanly graded, doesn't work. Whereas if you're painting something like the Stormcast Eternals or the Ultramarines, then you want the cleanest gradations and highlights imaginable. Oh, if you're painting Zeech, for example, then again you want really clean highlights. So it largely depends. It depends on the style of miniature.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And there is a small part of me that really just wants to shout original Nagash.
Yeah.
But I think, actually, saying that, the best miniature I've ever seen that Games Workshop did with a paint job that really pushed the miniature out there was that redo of Nagash.
That was gorgeous. I would, that would be up there for me too, to be honest. It is an absolutely sublime miniature.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those ones that you can look at again and again and keep seeing new things.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
There's so much going on, but it's not busy. Yeah,
he's dynamic and he expresses everything I want to see in a Nagash model. Yeah, he's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. I would also put up there, for me anyway, the Harlequins, the recent Harlequins.
Yes.
I love them. In particular, I love the Solitaire. I think the Solitaire is one of the most stunning miniatures Games Workshop have put out for a very long time. He is so dynamic. I mean, he's actually sort of leaping and gambolling over ruins. And the paint scheme it's that kind of paint scheme that has that slightly ethereal look to it that Eldar miniatures suits so beautifully. Yeah, I love them.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Love them.
I'd agree with that.
And possibly the new Lord of Change.
That thing is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm terrified because I want one.
Me too.
But on the other hand, I have no idea how the hell I'd paint it.
Me either. And I kind of want to convert it as well, but I'm kind of loath to do it because I think it's such a lovely thing. I want it to be unique, but I don't want to ruin any of the gorgeous work and detail that's been done to it.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one. Oh, Magnus the Red.
Oh, yeah. That Magnus is gorgeous.
And Gilman. I like Gilman too.
Also, and just to go back into the past a little bit, the Halfling Chicken Riders.
Yeah.
Because they're fantastic, and I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, they're
great. The original Goblin Doom Diver.
Yeah.
And that's not a joke one. That's because the amount of character that miniature has.
They do have a lot of character going on for them. I like those.
Yeah.
There's lots of good stuff actually.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff.
I think we'll leave that one alone.
Yeah, because the more you think about it, the more we'll come up with basically. So.
Yeah. Matt Clark says, "What was your first model kit?"
For me, from Games Workshop, that would be the Eldar Warwalker. The re-release of it that came out in Second Ed after the advent of the original Eldar Codex. which was slightly rejigged. It was slightly redesigned, but not much, and it was evil. Yeah. It was evil to put together. Kept falling apart, but I loved it.
Oh yeah. Myself from Games Workshop, the Rhino, I think, the original plastic Rhino that was $5.99.
Wow, got a Rhino for $5.99.
Yeah, do you remember that?
Jesus.
Didn't take much building either. It was clink, clink. Oh, I'm done. Oh well.
That was one of the first vehicle kits, wasn't it? The Rhino.
Yeah, I think it was the first. Yeah.
Wow.
Good grief. $5.99 would be about 15 quid in today's money, so yeah. Outside of that, I seem to remember having a Airfix Blackbird when I was maybe 6 or 7.
Wow.
Which I remember building and making a complete mess out of.
I think most of us made a complete mess out of our first miniatures.
Yes, without a doubt.
Either that or our mums and dads made messes out of our first miniatures.
It's a little of column A, little of column B, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, last two. So, this is also from Matt Clark. You're the casting director of a massive on-screen 40k production. The budget is so huge, you even have access to a time machine. Who would you cast as a particular character?
That is a fantastic question.
That's a great one.
I would cast as Eldrad Ulthron, and I would cast actually plays Agent Smith in The Matrix.
Oh, Hugo Weaving.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
I would cast Hugo Weaving. He'd just be playing Elrond, but, you know.
Yeah.
I would cast Hugo Weaving.
It would be Hugo Weaving, but using the Megatron voice in the first Transformers movie.
Please, no.
Boy!
No, thank you.
Because we were talking about him earlier on, Yarick. And I would cast High Plains Drifter era Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, actually, that's perfect. It's one of those bits of casting the way you're like, that could not be more perfect.
No. Maybe a little bit later, actually. Maybe the Unforgiven era Clint Eastwood. Yeah. So he's a bit more older and a bit more grizzled.
And not quite as mental as he is now.
Yes, not as he is now. No. Or go into the future, collect Tom Cruise from 20 years' time and then get him.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be completely off the rails by that point.
Yeah, he'd be perfect, wouldn't he? But who would you cast as Fulgrim? Fulgrim's really difficult because he's got to be sublimely beautiful.
Crikey! He was in Rogue One. Has cheekbones you could shave with. What's his name? He was in Hannibal as well.
The actor who plays
Mikkelsen?
Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, that's the one.
Mads Mikkelsen, yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, it's
because he's not classically good looking,
but there is something.
There's a grace to him.
There is something about him, definitely. Yeah, I think he'd be very good as Lorgar, actually.
Actually, yes, that would be a better.
He'd be very good as Lorgar because he's got the right air about him.
Yeah.
Angron. I don't know.
Ron Perlman.
Yeah, actually, in all seriousness, Ron Perlman would be pretty good.
I think he'd be
pretty good.
But then again, I actually want Ron Perlman to be Ghazghkull Thraka.
Yes,
so.
Yeah, that'd be better. That would be even better. Yeah.
Although, if you had Ron Perlman as Angron, you could have Ray Winston as Thraka.
Yeah.
Oi, I'm Thraka, and I'm here to kill your Yarick.
Or Vinnie Jones, maybe.
Vinnie Jones is
he'd be
fantastic.
Great, wouldn't he? Absolutely perfect. He's got the right accent and everything. Doesn't even have to do anything. Doesn't have to act. Just paint him green and let him go.
I like the idea of just painting him green.
But yeah, this is a game we could play all day.
Yeah, I think that we could actually probably at some point just make that as a challenge.
Yeah, in fact,
to the,
I think that's
group.
going to be an episode.
Yeah, possibly.
I think that could be an episode, and I think it could be really fun.
Yeah, we'll do a special episode down the line of casting 40k.
Yeah, that'd be fabulous. I'd be very pleased about that.
I like that. And final question from Christopher Carlson says, what's the deal with the Storm of Chaos fiasco? But from what I've read, It's an episode of its own. In simplistic terms, Games Workshop made a summer-wide campaign. And they thought that it would go one way, but because of the way that the books had been written and the fluff had been played with and the way that the army books had been read, it went the completely other way, and they sat there for a while going, oh god, we've actually broken everything with this. And so they had to kind of weasel their way out of it in a way that was not satisfying to anyone.
It happened a lot back then, actually. There was the other campaign, which was kind of the sister campaign to it, the Eye of Terror, and exactly the same thing happened. Exactly the same thing. They had to sort of, because they didn't realise how unbalanced the actual outcome would be.
Well, chaos basically destroyed everything in its path.
Everything, which, quite frankly, if you read the army books that were released back then, it's hardly surprising, is it?
No, no, it's not.
There's nothing that could compete with the army books of Chaos in either game system back then. So that was going to happen. So they had to hastily retcon what had happened using the fluff, and not in a very satisfactory manner, it has to be said.
No, that's an understatement.
Yeah. But it was a case of let's just pretend that never happened.
Yeah, it was swept under the carpet and never mention it again.
Although,
it was bad.
I will say about the Storm of Chaos, they did return to it in a certain respect, because a lot of the elements that were set up in Storm of Chaos became elements of the End Times.
It did, yeah. I do think that Storm of Chaos was a dry run to see how the End Times would work.
Yeah, absolutely. To see if they could get away with actually changing things, which they didn't ultimately.
Completely and utterly. And they brought back Fimmer, which was nice.
Yeah, they did briefly.
Yeah, so, yay. Oh, do you want some breaking news?
Oh, go on then, go on. What's happening? What's going on?
Right, Games Workshop have just updated. So, how do you fancy Space Hulk?
Oh, I knew they were going to do it.
Wait, it's out now.
What?
Seriously, it's out now.
The game?
Yeah.
Shit.
75 quid, web store exclusive.
Fuck off. I hate you, Games Workshop.
It's just hit.
I've just spent £300 on your shit, and now you're coaxing me. I mean, I really want that. I think after this is finished, I'm going to be hovering over that all day, arguing with myself. Go on. You know you want it. You don't have to eat. Sure, there's enough scraps and odds and ends around the house that you can make do with for the next week or so.
There's dumpsters out back.
Yeah, what have you thrown away? Sure, the cat won't mind if you dig into Felix.
That's unfair.
It is, isn't it?
God damn it. There we go. Right, so I think with all that then, we can get out of here.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much covered that one.
Yep, very much so. So, George, if you want to throw out where people can find you.
Oh, absolutely, yes. People can find me at the Strange Playgrounds website, www.strangeplaygrounds.com. You can find me at YouTube, Exaggerated Elegy, and on Twitter at Enigmatic Elegy. You can find me floating around the Fluffenhammer quite a lot, both the Facebook page and the official website. And I think that's it. That's where I operate primarily.
Excellent. For myself, you can find my work at youtube.com/grufflock. But most of that is Warhammer or Warcraft or all of those type of fiction is going to be going onto the Fluffenhammer site as well, so ting ting. But if you fancy listening to stuff that isn't Warhammer or Warcraft or otherwise based, then please go over to my YouTube channel. But you can also find all of these videos at gruffnexus.weebly.com. You can find my audiobook production company at rivetedsounds.co.uk. There is something coming at long last now that all the paperwork has been sorted. So there'll be something out in the next couple of weeks, which I'm hoping that people will enjoy.
Fabulous.
Outside of that, I think that's it. You can find me on Twitter, and I'll sometimes respond. Oh, yeah, yes, and of course I am now the host of the TF Nation Talk podcast.
Oh, yes! Forgot about that.
Yes, God, this is how you know I'm doing too much.
Yes, retired.
I retired. That worked for me.
You need that tattooed on the inside of your eyelids, don't you?
Yeah, and tired. So when I blink, I'm just like, I'm tired? Why am I tired?
Oh.
Where I discussed various forms of infrastructure with Alex Milne, discussed industrial metal with Thu from Thu's Awesome Toy Reviews, and there's some other stuff coming up. So, yes, that's all of my stuff. And I'm going to go to sleep now because I'm tired just talking about it.
Oh, man, I'm going to go and hover obsessively over the Games Workshop website and try to talk myself out of it.
Good luck with that, mate. Good luck. And thanks for listening, guys. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye, guys.
The Dark Imperium. For 10,000 years, the Imperium of Man has endured. Yet, perhaps now, it faces its darkest hour. With Cadia, mankind's bulwark against the eye of terror for millennia, gone, shattered by Abaddon's 13th Black Crusade, darkness has fallen upon the Imperium. New age of war has begun. This is a dark age. Of all the many ages of mankind, it may be the darkest. The Imperium, which has endured for 10,000 years through civil wars, Xenos invasions, and conflicts beyond number, is beset as never before. The destruction of Cadia brought with it surging warp storms across the galaxy. As the gatehouse of the Imperium fell, and Abaddon gathered his legions for an assault upon Holy Terra itself, the Imperium all but ceased to be. The light of the Astronomicon, the slender thread that can rightly be said to be all that holds together the vast, disparate domains of the Imperium of Man, flickered out as the warp storms grew to such intensity that they became known as the Blackness, the Noctis Eternia. The constant tumult and upheaval of the Immaterium, of the very warp itself, spilled out across real space. The stuff of nightmares, burning across the flesh of creation like acid. And worse was still to come, as the gathering storm gave birth to a great rift, the Cicatrix Maledictum, a rent in reality, in its size to the Eye of Terror as a slit throat is to a pinprick. And slit the Imperium's throat was. With the Astronomicon blacked out, astropathic communication and long-distance travel were all but made impossible, for even the most skilled navigators could not direct vessels through the screaming warp. And to reach out across the distances with one's mind was to invite madness, death, if one was lucky. Demon storms howled out from the rift, consuming planets in raw insanity and terror. The demon Primarchs, Magnus, Mortarion, and others led legions of traitors in a renewed assault upon the domain of an emperor they had denounced in an age regarded by many as myth and folklore. The Imperium, which had stood against all of this for 10,000 years, was beset all about by chaos. Demons stalked the stars, and the rule of man on hundreds of worlds faltered, as civilization itself crumbled in the face of impossible horrors. But if chaos is ascendant, then it is faced with an Imperium resurgent. Resurrected with the assistance of the Eldari, as Abaddon the Despoiler's 13th Black Crusade marched across the galaxy. Rabaut Gilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines, is once more Lord Commander of the Imperium's armies. The Adeptus Astartes have been rejuvenated by the creation of the Primaris Space Marines, millennia in the making. And the Imperium is once again on the offensive against the innumerable perils that assail it. Having turned back the legions of chaos upon the very soil of Terra itself, Gilliman, Accompanied by the Imperial Fists, hosts of Chimera Space Marines, and at least a dozen other chapters, embarked on the Indomitus Crusade to liberate worlds under the pall of the Noctis Eternia. As intermittent astropathic communications begin once more to pierce the raging warp storms, so too came the news that there might be hope of salvation at last. The birth of the Great Rift, the Citrix Maledictum, drowned worlds in the insanity of the warp, and from it, horrors continue to spill. There are ways through. One, the Nakmund Gauntlet, is rumored to lie close to the Eye of Terror, a cruel irony that would no doubt amuse the Dark Gods. But these routes are fraught with danger. The Imperium is now divided in ways its leaders are only beginning to comprehend. Nearly half the galaxy is cut off, now designated Imperium Nihilus, and few know what has become of the worlds beyond the Rift. With its stars drowned in war, the galaxy has entered a new age. The age of the Dark Imperium. And in the Dark Imperium, there is only war.